When do we do it? Go to commercial for the Grape Crush ads.
You want to do the ad? There it is.
Nice, dude.
All right, we'll be right back. All right.
And we're back.
Long time no see.
All right. Welcome back to My Dad's Movie Podcast. I'm the dad.
And I'm the movie.
I'll be the podcast in on this one.
This is the part 2 of the Rob Reiner episode.
He's not the dad. I'm the dad.
Yes. I get to be the dad.
Go to your room, Tabor.
Joining us on this episode, once again, is my good buddy, Derek Hayden.
What's up, guys?
Yeah. Good of you to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah. It's literally just the same conversation. The Rob Reiner episode just ran a little long, so we thought we'd turn it into a 2-parter.
Few good men.
Yeah, we talked about a few good men, and we thought we'd talk a little bit more about Rob Reiner. What do we?
Rob Reiner has so many friggin' movies. I mean, you could do easily 2, 3, 4 episodes just on him, but
we could do 4 episodes on a lot of the people.
Oh yeah,
that we've talked about. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So,
Princess Bride from Rob Reiner.
Yeah,
awesome show.
So good. So this episode we are talking about Stand By Me.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get into it.
What do you want to know?
Well,
so let me do the little thing here. A writer recounts a childhood journey with his friends to find the body of a missing boy. It's the summer of 1959 in Castle Rock, Oregon. Castle Rock. What is that?
Castle Rock is the name of his production company.
That's right.
It's Rob Reiner's production company.
So
is that not a real place?
Castle Rock is a real place.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think there's one in Maine, and I think there's one in Oregon.
Okay.
And he named his production company off of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow,
that's
awesome.
Kind of cool. Let's see. Castle Rock, Oregon. 4 friends, Gordy, Chris, Teddy, and Vern, learn of the location of the body of a local boy who's been missing for several days. They learn about themselves, the meaning of friendship, and the need to stand up for what's right. So that's kind of the premise of it.
So when was the first time you saw Stand By Me?
I was like, I don't have no idea. I was a kid.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah, a long time ago.
Is this one of the
this is one I did have to rewatch because I was like, it had been so long since I'd seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was, we were talking about how this is a movie that's quoted a lot in our family.
Yeah.
And, you just hear these quotes so much that after a while, my mom and dad are just like, we just got to show you this movie.
Yeah, why aren't you laughing at our jokes?
Yeah, exactly.
Need some context.
I remember, they sat us down and we watched this movie, and I was just blown away by this movie because, it's so weird that watching a movie that was made in the 80s about kids growing up in the 50s is that even though they are from a different decade and this movie was made in a different decade, being a kid is the same.
Yeah, being a kid is being a kid.
Yeah,
Yep.
you got your buddies, you're hanging out, and growing up is just always the same. Yeah, we have iPads now, but, you're going on adventures and stuff like that. And,
Right.
I remember growing up, riding around in bikes and meeting neighborhood kids and spending time in school with a lot of the friends growing up.
Right.
And, we talked about my friend Becca. Becca has been my friend since 2nd grade.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've known her for over, 20 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what this movie is about. It's about the bond and friendship of these boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's the whole thing about it. And I loved the beginning of the movie right off the bat where they have Richard Dreyfuss sitting in the vehicle on the side of the road, and he's starts to recount his childhood and his friends and this journey that they took. And I thought that was a really cool way to start it out.
Yeah.
Was you get to see him. He's got the newspaper talking about
Chris
Chris Chambers
Getting
who
stabbed.
gets killed, right?
Yeah.
And then you see two kids ride by on their bicycles, two friends, and so he starts thinking about, his friends and all of this stuff. And yeah, but it was a cool way to start the whole thing out, was him talking and thinking about it. And yeah,
I really like that they did that too. The newspaper article at the beginning, just because the whole, like, they're all definitely like outsiders, like misfits. They get into trouble and stuff, and so you're like, it puts in your head like, this dude's definitely going to be getting into trouble and stuff.
Right.
And then, yeah.
Yeah. It's really funny is they're painted as misfits in this story. But when I watch this movie, I don't really think of them as misfits. And maybe it's because they're the protagonists of the story.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's because I'm a misfit. And so maybe that's why I don't feel.
Well, I think everyone kind of feels that way too. That might be why it's relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they just didn't seem like misfits to me. They just seemed like normal, everyday kids just doing, I don't know. Teddy Duchamp kind of seemed a little weird.
Yeah, he was weird, but I mean, and then also, I mean, like they did like the main what's his name, Gordy, his dad saying, he's a thief, and about Chris Chambers and stuff, and how he gets into trouble, and him grabbing a gun, his dad's gun,
right?
Yeah, like I feel like they kind of paint them as like, these are the kids who get into trouble. They're also smoking cigarettes in their treehouse, which I know. I mean, time period also, I know like smoking was a little bit more acceptable in that time period too. So, but I mean, still, it's like it is kind of painted as these kids are. You're with the troubled kids. You're the kids who are not, and they do that throughout the story too, of them saying, hey, you need to go work on your writing and go to college and stuff. You can't hang out with us because we're just not going to go anywhere. We're going to be in the body shops, and we're going to pull you down. Like they kind of paint them as,
right.
So maybe misfits was a bad choice of words, but definitely like they're definitely troublemakers.
Yeah. The other thing, well, even the parents didn't even like him.
Yeah. His dad, yeah.
But also, I think, didn't we all have friends like that?
Mm-hmm.
To some degree, you had a friend who was probably like one of these characters.
Yeah.
Right?
Because when you're a child, you're very indiscriminate.
Yeah.
You're just, that guy likes Pokemon. I like Pokemon.
Yeah.
We're friends.
Yeah.
Like that's literally all it takes.
Yeah.
That's why as adults, you don't have very many friends because your list of criteria changes a lot as an adult. Like the things that you look for in a friend are much more strict.
Yeah. It's not just, hey, you're my same age.
Yeah.
We could be friends.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, and that kind of puts parents in a weird spot too, because how many times did I have a friend growing up that you couldn't stand their parents and you just had to be cool with it because the kid was my friend?
I don't know. Actually, I can't remember your friend's parents, I guess.
Yeah, your friends had boring parents.
I don't
know. Maybe, I guess. You remember that time I was friends with that kid, Shay, across the street?
Yeah.
And Mom made me take Briar over to his house?
I don't remember that. But
no. Briar took a bag of grapes from the fridge and swung them over his head, and the bag ripped open, and the grapes ripped, and all the grapes went flying at Shay's face, and he screamed at the top of his lungs, and his mom was like, you guys need to go home now.
So you were the troubled kids.
You know what?
We all had a friend like that. Didn't we?
Now that you mention it,
Makes sense.
Gosh, I think so. Yeah.
Looking for dead bodies soon.
Exactly. Yeah. Me and my brother dodging the train on the way back from Shay's house.
Right.
Yeah.
Twirling a stick on your finger.
So
the cigarettes you were talking about, they're smoking in the clubhouse, and well, actually, there are several scenes where they're smoking. Those were not actually cigarettes.
That's good.
Yeah, they were made from lettuce leaves.
Really?
Yeah, so they weren't cigarettes,
Okay.
which I thought was interesting. And I would think that would be weird also, as you're making a movie, and I just can't imagine Rob Reiner would give kids cigarettes.
Yeah.
That would just be bizarre.
You never know. I mean, a lot of times
Yeah.
you look at a lot of the animal movies back in the day, or you kind of read about the stuff that happened.
Now-
Yeah.
like Milo and Otis.
Right.
Homeward
If-
Bound
Ooh.
is also not.
Ooh.
Yeah.
If Quentin Tarantino would have made this movie, absolutely, those
Yeah.
would have been cigarettes for
Yeah.
sure.
Those kids would be saying the N-word.
But but Rob Reiner, probably not.
And just close-ups of feet
Yeah.
everywhere. I'm kind of interested in what a coming of age story by Quentin Tarantino would look like.
Oh my gosh.
Give me a Quentin Tarantino movie in every genre. I'm curious.
I'd watch it.
Yeah. I'm curious as to what his Star Trek would have been.
I'll say this: I have not watched a Tarantino movie that I didn't enjoy. So
Jackie Brown.
never seen it.
That's the one you wouldn't enjoy.
I wouldn't. Okay.
Well, no. I shouldn't say that. My brothers are trying to get me to rewatch it. They're just like, you got to rewatch it, because they're like, I think you'll change your mind, and I'm like, okay, probably, we'll see.
yeah, you got to give it a
The
chance.
thing is, it's his most subdued movie, and that's why.
What do you mean by that?
It's not stylistic.
Okay.
It's very down to earth. There is a little bit of violence and crime,
Yeah.
but it's very calm. And there's even some romance in it too, a
Yeah.
little bit. And it's also not his story. It's the only Quentin Tarantino movie that is an adaptation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but I don't think the adaptation is what makes me not like it. I just think it's the style and how it's directed.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll give it another shot. But anyway, Stand By Me. So the original title of this movie was The Body.
Yeah.
Which was a short story or novella by Stephen King.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that until the end, and that actually blew my mind.
Yeah.
'Cause it doesn't seem like, yeah.
There's some weird Stephen King stuff out there that
Yeah.
it's just not Stephen King-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you're like, oh, weird. Okay. And the only reason that the title was changed was because Kiefer Sutherland was teaching River Phoenix how to play Stand By Me on the
Really?
guitar. And Rob Reiner's like, I think that's the theme song for this movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
He's like,
Oh, that's cool.
he goes, all you kids are standing by each other throughout this entire thing. And he
Right.
goes, I'm going to get the rights to this song. And that's the theme of this movie, Stand By Me.
Right. Well, if you would have called it The Body, the focus would have been on the dead kid
Yeah.
body. And that's not
That
what
was
it
almost
about.
irrelevant of
Yeah.
his. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just happened to be taking this journey to go see this
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The body was just ancillary
Yeah.
because it was about the journey of these friends. It was about these 4 kids who were going through a trauma that they each were dealing with. Chris had an alcoholic father, and he was going through that school stuff with the school milk, and Gordy lost his brother, and his parents weren't coping with it very well. And Teddy,
John Cusack.
yeah,
Yeah.
Brother.
that's a very small role for John Cusack, isn't it?
Yeah.
Must have been early in his career.
Yeah.
And then
Teddy's dad was
Teddy's
in the
dad
insane
was
asylum.
the loony up in Togus. That's my I find, dude, I say that to my ferrets all the time. Yeah.
You would have ferrets.
I'm a rodent person.
So,
you are.
So when you're talking to your rodents about your dad being a loony up in...
Yeah, what's that about?
I'll just grab him and be like, all of your parents are going to get a call from me. And then I'll grab Lonnie, except the loony up in Togus. And he's just like, I'm just a ferret, dude. Like, I don't know what you want from me.
Put me down.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually have a rodent now too. I got a rabbit.
Yeah. I love rabbits.
I do too.
Yeah. I had a rabbit named Steve Hofstetter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know who Steve Hofstetter is, right?
Yeah, he's a comedian.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Glad.
But this is Hopstetter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Teddy had his ear burned off and Vern was fat.
Yeah, that was his only thing. It really was. They didn't give him any backstory.
He's fat and he has a comb.
Yeah.
True.
That's what we
had
know.
a comb.
He had a comb.
He had a small meal. Yeah. And so just they had all these things that just hanging out with their friends, they were able to forget all that. And that's kind of what life is like, is just you have all these things that you're dealing with. And we find these nice, pleasant little ways to help deal with those and to kind of forget. And the body that they were going to find was kind of like a microcosm. It was a symbol
Yeah.
of what all of them were going through. They were all, they all had this thing that they were
Grappling with. They were struggling with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was what propelled them to kind of go through and deal with their traumas. And
Gordy, played by Will Wheaton, his thing was after his brother died, he was invisible.
Yeah.
Nobody saw him anymore. And River Phoenix, he was labeled the troublemaker.
Mm.
He was no good, and he'd never be any good.
Yeah.
And Corey Feldman, what? He was crazy, I guess.
Yeah, he was.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He was going to be with his dad.
Yeah.
Up in.
They were going to share a cell.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jerry O'Connell, I'm thinking maybe this was his first movie. I think
so.
Yeah.
Did you hear the we'll talk about a nice little Rob Reiner directing trick. If you want a child actor to appear scared and act like they're being chased by a train, you need to yell and scream at them and chase them on the train tracks and then start rolling.
That's what he did?
That's what he did. He was yelling at him and he was screaming at him. And so when he's in tears and he's running on those train tracks, it's because Rob Reiner just got done screaming at this poor little boy. And so he's just in tears because Rob Reiner yelled at him. And then they yelled cut and he goes, come here. I'm so sorry, buddy. Give me a hug. I'm sorry, buddy. It's okay.
Hopefully we got it.
Yeah, I don't have to do that to you again.
He's like, we got it in that take. Because if not, we'll do it again.
Then they call in the heavy. They call in Jack Nicholson.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So this was a Stephen King novella. I just air quoted.
Yeah.
So Rob Reiner screened the movie for Stephen King, and after it got done, Stephen King had gotten up from the screening. He walked out of the room, and then when he came back in, I guess he was like visibly kind of shaking and almost tears in his eyes and stuff, and was letting Rob Reiner know, that this was the best adaptation of any of his books
Oh, that's awesome.
that he had ever seen, ever. So, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Another fan that Stephen King has is Frank Darabont.
Hmm.
Stephen King says he's very proud of Frank Darabont's work as well.
Okay.
Fun fact, if you ever want to get into filmmaking on a deeper level, you can actually buy the rights to Stephen King's stories for $1.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He's
Interesting.
got a program that you can go online. You can buy some of his lesser known works. So you can't do Misery or Stand By Me.
I think they already did it.
Yeah. He's written so many things.
Yeah.
And so many things that have not been done that
Why haven't we done this?
I don't know. It'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be a blast. And then you put it in the Cody Newton Fest.
Yeah. Yep.
Stephen King wrote it. You put it together.
Adapted it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get to say based on the short story by Stephen King, it cost you $1. You can't profit off of it. That's the rule.
Oh.
So you can't, try to make any money off of it.
Hmm.
But if you
Okay, that puts a damper on it.
Yeah. So as long as it's like a not-for-profit, so it's like very lucrative for students, but you don't have to be a student to take advantage of this.
Right.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So you're like, I want to do a story. I just can't come up with an idea right now.
So what were your favorite parts of this movie?
One of my favorite parts is Gordy's story
Yeah, I liked that
with
too.
Lardass.
Lardass, yeah.
Yeah, that's always
It's a fun scene.
something that Mom quotes all the time is, "Don't listen to those fools, Lardass." I mean, Davey.
Yeah.
She says that all the time. It always makes me laugh. Always. Another great part is now what he said was Chopper, sick 'em.
Right.
But what I heard was Chopper, six balls.
One thing I'm curious about, because when they do the story of Lardass, they kind of like hint like it's not finished, almost like he's like still developing it, because they're all giving him different things. He's like, I don't know, it's just done, but it's like, I don't know, like them almost like coaxing him into being like to like refinish.
Like the ending's not quite done.
Yeah.
So
I want to know what
Yeah,
if you ever got a chance to finish that.
that's interesting. That's funny because I felt the story was done.
Yeah,
but
he did too at first, and then his friends start talking, and then you can see like the wheel spinning, and then people offering.
Thinking about it.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Huh.
Because it wasn't like they said, I want to know what he's doing now. Like anytime you finish a story, you're like, okay, where are they at? Like even with this movie, they did that. Where at the end they go, hey, this is where this guy's going. This guy ended up, he's working on a forklift now, and this guy's in and out of jail, and they kind of do that, but they never did that with that story. But they were like, I don't know, yeah.
This is a differently paced movie. We were talking about pacing. This one is definitely paced differently.
Right.
It's not as clippy as an Aaron Sorkin story, but that doesn't mean it's got bad pacing. It feels more lackadaisical, relaxed, kind of like
Well, what would it be like for children?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly
It's kind of their pace. It's their way
they have nowhere to be.
Right. It's their way of seeing the world.
Yeah.
They have no appointments to keep.
Right.
They don't have to, hurry and go see this body because, they gotta get to work,
Right. Yeah.
So, and I think that's cool that the pacing also reflects the characters. Like, we were talking about John Wick
Mm-hmm.
in the previous episode. The pacing reflects he is a fast fighter. The pacing of the movie reflects that. It would be weird if the movie was about an old man who was just crippled and couldn't move, but the movie was just clipping along. Like it wouldn't mesh well.
Yeah.
So just, and the thing is that it's not like this happens naturally, where it's a movie about kids. So the pacing is a kid's pacing.
Yeah.
This has to be written like this because there are bad writers who can write a movie that requires a certain pacing, but then they do the wrong pacing. So it's very possible.
Right.
So I think it's well done. And
Well, and you had talked about in the last episode we just did a couple minutes ago. You talked about how music is important, and in this movie, especially for the time period that they were placing this in, and the type of music the music was just instrumental.
Yeah, it was huge
in the pacing and how things were going to go and stuff. Yeah, the type of music that they played.
Well, also the music is also of the time period too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's like the music. You'll have to refresh my memory. Did they have a radio with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because when they were on the campfire, he's like, "Let's put on some music," and then
when they're on the train tracks and they're doing lollipop, lollipop. I didn't realize they had a radio.
Yeah.
And so that's playing, on the radio station, but they're going along the train track singing it and, making the pop sound and stuff like that. I thought that they were just
singing,
doing it. Yeah, they were singing the song.
Yeah.
Right.
So they are literally carrying the soundtrack to the movie with them as they go.
Yeah.
There's no soundtrack other than what they are carrying with them.
Well, they also do just sing too. Because there's scenes where they're just walking, just all singing like songs and stuff, not listening to the radio.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. It made me think of Boy Scouts. Being in Boy Scouts and just kind of hanging out with my buddies and just singing silly songs and walking on train tracks and stuff like that.
Nice.
It's very realistic.
So one of my favorite scenes was when they're cutting through the woods and they come to the big body of water.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Gordy.
River Phoenix. Chris Chambers. He takes the stick and he pokes it in the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not deep. We can walk through, and then they all just drop in all together.
Yeah.
It was so friggin' funny.
Yeah.
What do you think the importance of the leeches was?
Ooh,
like why do you think they put that in there? Because it was it definitely had a point, like him shutting down after finding it on his business, and then being like, do we go back? Do you think it was an interesting way to?
So I know the leeches weren't real.
Okay.
And there was significance to them. I'm going to have to look up what it was because I can't remember, but the pond that they actually made, that was a man-made pond. That wasn't just they were worried about what was actually down inside there, and they didn't want them to get into real stuff.
Real leeches. Right?
Yeah. So they built this pond for them to go into. But then in the time after they built it to when they actually started doing the shooting for that scene was like 3 months, and it had been sitting out.
Oh, that had to smell so bad.
And so
stagnated, and
they had stuff in it. They didn't even know what was in it at that point. So they just created a pond that, became a pond.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny. But the leeches symbolism, often interpreted as symbols of the untamed wild, youth and sexuality, representing the uncertain and sometimes unsettling aspects of nature and growing up. I don't know what that all means, but
you want me to tell you what I think it means?
Yeah.
Gordy finds one in his underwear. That's got to suck.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. So I think, you ever been close to achieving a goal and you've been working towards something and you've been working so hard at it, and when you're almost about to achieve it, you chicken out?
Okay.
You're just like, shoot, I could fail at this, and if I quit now, I won't fail at it. It's easier to quit than to fail.
It's a
Yeah.
failure, but you controlled it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what it is it's like that last checkpoint,
Yeah.
because right after the leeches, they almost decide to go home.
Yeah. But he was, because he's sitting against the tree, and you can definitely tell he's phazed by that. That traumatized him for sure.
I'd want
I
to
gotta go home.
too. Yeah, I'm all done.
Yeah, but he gets up and he even says, like, when it's the writer talking about it, where he goes, I didn't even care if they were following me or not, like I did. So I guess that's probably what they were going for.
Yeah.
Because he was I'm on a mission, like I have to see this. Which is that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just that
The leeches
last checkpoint, and you could either choose to turn around now, but once you get that far, and there are people who do that. There are people who get that far, and then they turn around. Vern was going to do it.
Yeah, Teddy too, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's real life. There's been times where I've done it, where I was going to do something, and then I was just like, nope, I don't think I'm going to do it. It'd be easier to just not do it.
Yeah.
He gets the leeches on, and he gets them off, and then he keeps going. He breaks through that last checkpoint. Then he sees the body, and he has like a moment of like catharsis there.
Yeah, 100%.
Where he's talking at the body. He's saying, "Why did you have to die?"
Yeah, who's he talking to?
Yeah.
He's talking directly at the body, but that's not who he's talking to.
Right.
No.
He's definitely talking to his brother.
Right.
And that's really devastating,
So each of them had their own reason for taking this journey.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Except Vern.
Except Vern. All he cared about was that damn comb.
Dude, he burned some calories, man.
Yeah.
Dude.
Free snacks for 7 cents.
Have you seen him now? He is in good shape.
Is he? I don't know.
You don't know what he looks like now?
Uh-uh.
Great shape, man.
Yeah.
You were talking about how every person had their own reason for going on this journey.
That's right, their own journey. I mean, even though they're all friends, and friends get together and they go off and do stuff, but the point of going and seeing this body, each kid had their own reason for going. So
Teddy had this idealized version of his father in his head. His father was a hero.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had to prove that he was a hero. And that's why he was going, is he was going to be this hero. His father was a war hero,
right?
Apparently.
Right.
And that's what he wanted.
Stormed the beaches at Normandy.
Do you think that so at the end when they're talking about where everybody is now, do you think he would be in a different place if they actually turned the body in and got credit for it? With that, because he didn't get the "I'm a hero" from the body, because they didn't end up turning it over, right?
No.
Did he?
No
way. No.
You think he'd be the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's definitely someone who suffers from mental illness, and that does not go away with fame.
Yeah.
And it would have been 15 minutes of fame. I mean, he wouldn't be able to cash that in for like a movie deal or anything. He'd be in the newspaper for a little bit, and then he'd go back to not being able to hold down a job, and
right.
That guy's going to struggle for the rest of his life.
Yeah, at the time he's going at it from the viewpoint of a kid.
Yeah.
This is how a kid thinks.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because I feel like Gordy and is it Chris? Is that the main? Yeah.
Chris Chambers.
I feel like those two act like their trajectories. At first, it's Gordy's. I don't want to write. I hate writing. I hate writing. I'll never write it. And his friend is. Hey, you need to do this. This is you need to go to college and you need to better yourself.
Right.
And later on,
you've got a gift.
Yeah. And later on, he ends up doing all of that. And then with Chris, it's I'm never going to amount to anything. I'm going to be. I can't go to college. That's not who I am. Everyone has this picture of who I am, which isn't. They don't see me as They just see this version that they're projecting on me.
Right.
But later on, he ends up going to college, becomes like a successful lawyer, and but the other two I felt like didn't really get like the fairy book ending, I guess.
So what did happen to the other two? I don't remember what
So Vern, I think he had like a few kids and basically stayed in town as working as a forklift driver.
Okay.
Teddy
So-
tried to.
So his character, Vern's character, was the same character as a kid. He was kind of just this. That's it.
Just
That's
pretty
it.
average.
Right.
Yeah, and then Teddy, he tries to join the army. Because that's his dream. He wants to be like his dad, and they don't accept him because he has poor vision, and since his ear was burned off,
right.
he had bad hearing, so he couldn't get accepted.
He's 4F.
Yeah, and so then he just kept getting into trouble, getting in and out of jail, and then is picking up a bunch of odd jobs.
Okay.
And so it was like for him, it kind of seemed. I mean, he definitely was the crazy guy in the whole thing, but it didn't seem like I felt like the other two kind of worked through their stuff. You know, Gordy kind of broke through that fear of committing to writing and doing, because obviously he's passionate about it. It's something he loves to do. And Chris also got over the who cares what anybody thinks, like I can still do things kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
That's interesting, yeah.
But that's why I was asking earlier if you thought if he did see the body, if that would be like, or if they showed off and he was like a hero, if Teddy would have changed. Because he didn't even get to go in the army or anything.
No, I think the only thing that would change Teddy is getting some mental help.
Yeah.
Which I do not think is readily available in his time era.
Okay. The other thing too, they said at the end also was the other two, Chris and Gordy, they basically stayed friends. Whereas they're like, we didn't really see the other two very much because the whole thing's leading up to we're going to middle school. Right. Yeah, we're going to junior high. And then they're like, once we started getting in there, we'd kind of see them in the hallways and didn't really see them much. And so they kind of drifted apart.
Right.
Yeah.
But those two didn't seem to really.
And that's kind of real life.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times you just don't stay friends with somebody forever.
Yeah. It's not that you don't care about them. It's just
life goes on. People go different directions.
In elementary school, I had 4 friends, or there was 4 of us, just like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
which one were you?
I was the second one.
Chris
Chambers?
No, I was definitely Vern. I was fat and I had a comb.
Nice. Great hair though.
Yeah. And 2 of those people I don't even talk to anymore. One of them I'm friends on Facebook. The other one I don't think I'm friends on Facebook anymore. And then the third person, Becca, we're still friends to this day.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
you went to school with Becca?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. We've been friends since 2nd grade. Those other 2, we were friends in 2nd grade. And then at the end of 5th grade, we went to middle school, and one friend switched over to the Valley View School District, and that broke up that portion. And then the other friend started being in fewer and fewer of my classes. Becca and I had a ton of the same classes, so we always saw each other.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. So it's very much like this movie. You know, 4 friends, 2 of them just became faces in the halls, and then there was just 2.
Fell into a puddle of water. Got leeches on.
Who got the leeches?
It was definitely me. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen a leech in my real life.
I haven't
really?
either.
I've seen ghost shrimp.
I've seen ticks. I'd say that's like the land leech.
I've seen ticks. I've definitely seen ticks. Did you see any ghost shrimp when you were in Corpus?
I have no idea what that is.
Dude,
no.
Like you get like these little plungers and you suck them out of the beach.
Really?
Yeah, it's so cool.
Okay.
You use them as bait.
For what? For fish?
For fish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Michigan, and in those lakes, like Lake Superior and stuff like that,
the cold lakes.
Yeah, they had leeches, but what you would do is they would kind of be in patches.
Yeah.
And if you were in an area and you saw like a dark patch in the water, you just didn't go over there.
Yeah, no swim.
Those were leeches over there. Yeah.
Gosh. So you had leeches in Michigan.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Texas and you ran into the jellyfish.
Jellyfish, yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of had bad luck in water, didn't you?
Yeah. Arizona.
Where there's no water.
Yeah. Well, see, that's a problem.
Bounce a ball in hockey, and that's a mandatory drug test right there. So we talked about the music of this movie.
Yep.
The production design. Let's talk about the production design. It was a movie that was shot to look like the 50s, and I think they nailed it.
Yeah, they did great.
Everything looks perfect.
Well, did they do any work indoors?
Yeah, they did in the houses. So like they have a scene with John Cusack when he's still alive and they're sitting at the dinner table and the dad's kind of, even still, he's kind of invisible. I think that's I didn't even notice that. He was kind of invisible to his dad that whole time.
Yes.
Like his brother was there, hey, you're great at writing. I love your writing and stuff. And his
even
dad,
before the brother died.
Yeah.
He still didn't really exist.
Yeah, all he cared about is, can you throw a football?
Yeah.
And so,
So do you think that Gordy didn't care that he was invisible at the time?
He probably
because he had his brother.
Probably didn't even recognize it. It was more of my brother's got my back, and because his brother was always there, giving him his hat, and
it's just like
it was easier for him. But I think that he cared.
Yeah,
I don't think that a kid wants to be invisible.
No, definitely,
to his parents. And so when he's asking the dad over and over, "Can I have the potatoes?" and the dad just isn't responding at all. Yeah, I think that he cared that his parents felt that way about him, that he was second.
Yeah.
But his brother tried to make up for it by showing affection and talking about how proud he was. And
yeah, he
stuff.
definitely
So
did.
He kind of took the brunt of that or took the sting off of that a little bit. And then when the brother was gone, it was just.
What was interesting is because his brother gives him that hat. And then when the bullies come and steal it from him, it was kind of an interesting choice of not making that as crazy as that was. Like, that's his dead brother's hat that you just stole, and it was not a big significant thing.
I got something to say about that hat.
Okay.
Actually.
Say it.
There was a behind the scenes video where Kiefer Sutherland was being talked to about he was talking to Rob Reiner about the direction with the hat, and he says, "I think I should put the hat on." And Rob Reiner goes, No, don't put on the hat. And he goes, Why? Why don't I put on the hat? And he goes, Because you don't want to wear the hat. It has nothing to do with you wearing the hat. You don't want the hat. You don't need the hat.
Right.
It is just strictly so you can be a jerk. And he's like, this is what your character's going to do. What's going to happen? We're not going to see this on camera, but I promise you, your character, the minute you walk around that corner, you're throwing that hat in the trash.
Okay.
That's how little this means to you. You're taking it just to be a jerk.
Yeah.
And that when you walk around that corner, you're dumping that hat in the trash can. And
so do they do that in the movie?
You don't see it.
Okay.
Yeah, you never
He
see
gives
it.
the hat to Eyeball, and Eyeball
is
puts it
wearing
on,
it. Yeah.
and they walk off.
Yeah.
But I feel like that should have been something you show, because that's a pretty significant symbol of this is the last thing my brother gave me was this hat, and this guy just stole it, and it's not,
But a cool thing is that even though they don't show it, that is a very, very strong characterization. There's so much that goes into creating a character that doesn't get shown on screen. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of character work that gets just totally missed or forgotten.
Yeah.
It just, you can't put it all on the screen. There's some actors that just write pages and pages and pages of backstory.
Yeah.
And it never ends up on the screen.
Right.
At least not directly.
Yeah.
But subconsciously, you see it. And you see it with Ace. You see the stuff that...
You could see that he wasn't taking the hat because he wanted the hat.
No, yeah.
He was taking the hat because he was a bully.
Yeah.
And he just wants to be mean. That's his character.
Yeah.
Right.
I think even there was some... I might be making this up.
Probably.
But I thought I heard somewhere that they had written some backstory that Ace and Gordy's brother had some sort of beef in the past.
Actually, I think not recently, but I think I did hear that or read that at one time, that was supposed to be part of the tensions, that those two didn't get along. And why would they? Gordy's brother was an athlete and he was loved by everybody and he was out to do good.
Yeah.
And then you've got the opposite of that. They're going to clash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can picture, Ace is causing problems for people, and Denny, John Cusack, his character's probably every once in a while trying to stop this.
Yeah.
It's the yin and yang of Castle Rock.
Right.
Yeah. He definitely did seem like that guy. Like he was very caring.
Something that I created in my head when I was brushing up for the movie. I was like, what if Ace is the one who killed Chris in the fight? Like, what if it just one day he was just there and he goes, "Oh, hey, I remember that guy." What if
he's the one that stabbed him.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's never written anywhere. It's just my own.
And also, maybe Ace is driving the train that hits the boy.
Yeah.
Right?
He started all this. Yeah.
He definitely seems capable of it. He's pulling knives on children.
But, I know that's just something that I made up in my head, but it almost kind of feels, Chris dying, it almost kind of feels like Ace got his vindication. He's like, you're going to get what's coming to you.
Right.
He does say that at the end.
Yeah.
Like when he pulls a gun on him, he's like, "We're not going to forget this, just so you know."
Yeah. And it wasn't Ace who did it. Someone did it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting theory.
It was an interesting choice of having him being killed also, like for the story.
Yeah. And trying to keep peace too. He didn't die he didn't get drunk and start a fight. He was trying to calm somebody down.
Well, to me, it was almost like this was destined. Like you saw what kind of childhood he had and that everybody thought he was no good and he was probably going to end up jail or dead anyways. And somehow he broke out of that, but still
died violently.
Destiny caught up to him. And this was what you were going to die, and you weren't going to have this breakout great life. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, what adds to the tragedy is, the death of River Phoenix.
Yeah.
Which is, a real bummer.
Right.
The actor that played him passed away.
Yeah. It was a while ago.
Yeah. Which is, really sad. And, it kind of, I don't know if you've ever, there's this movie called Running on Empty.
I've never heard of it.
It's a good one. It's really good, but River Phoenix is in that. I think it's his last movie.
Okay.
But it's got some unintentioned sadness to it also, because you just know that, this dude's going to die.
Yeah, that is kind of weird watching a movie.
There's nothing you can do about it, and you just kind of feel sad watching someone who had so much potential. It's really sad. It's a bummer.
Yeah, and his brother's a joker.
his brother's good too.
Yeah, he's really good.
Did you see that clip of Joaquin Phoenix on Letterman when he got that full beard and he's just drugged out of his mind?
No.
And Letterman's asking him questions and he's just getting no feedback from Joaquin Phoenix.
Really?
He's just asking him questions and he's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah."
What time period was this?
Gosh, maybe 2009.
Okay.
But then he asks him some questions and he gets no answers. And then Letterman goes, "Well, Joaquin, I'm sorry you couldn't be here tonight." I just thought that was such a funny quip.
Yeah.
That is,
well done, man.
You wonder why that ended up happening to him too, because he was huge. And I know maybe it had something to do with his brother passing away. I don't know, but Joaquin Phoenix was a great actor. He was big in the movies and stuff, and all of a sudden, he just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
He went into this, that if that was a character or not, or a stunt, but
Yeah.
and then later, he got back into acting again, but it was kind of a weird thing.
It's
He just
I think
kind of
it's a common thing I think it's kind of weird because it's not like super relatable because like unless you're like like super successful, it doesn't really make sense. But I feel like I don't know, once you have everything, then it's like, okay, what do you have to look forward to? And that kind of thing is like, I feel like that's got to be tough to cope with. Like once you are at the top of the mountain, now what?
right.
Like Robert Downey Jr. Like there's so many actors or celebrities who have like substance abuse and
Right.
Well, so first of all, Joaquin Phoenix, he came out later and said that was a viral marketing stunt for a mockumentary that he was doing with Casey Affleck.
Oh, really?
Casey
Okay.
Affleck was directing a mockumentary.
Okay.
And that movie later came out, and he's since come out and apologized for all that.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, go see the movie, blah, blah, blah. Also, Joaquin Phoenix and River Phoenix grew up in a cult.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, they have some sort of, hold on.
Do they drink the Kool-Aid?
I'm sure that they had Kool-Aid at some point in their life.
Nice.
But they grew up in a cult, and they kind of had some adverse effects to it. And so that probably has a lot to do. So not only did they grow up in a cult, but they also grew up in Hollywood. And both those things probably affect how you think and how you make decisions. And River Phoenix had an overdose, and Joaquin Phoenix saw his brother pass out and die right in front of him. So, I mean, having your brother die is traumatic, but watching your brother die in front of you
Yeah.
is even worse. It's an insane thing. And it's kind of weird that life imitated art that way. I think Stand By Me is a remarkable movie. It makes me very emotional. I get choked up watching this movie every time. It makes me nostalgic for the friends that I had growing up. It also makes me nostalgic for, the times that I had watching movies with my brothers and sisters and my mom and my dad. And I guess that's kind of why we started this podcast. And this is one of the movies that this podcast exists because of a movie like this,
Yeah.
I said, there it is. We'd have to cut that out. Have I told you about the
That's the only one
I do that all the time in stand-up. I'm like,
Really?
Oh, yeah. So when I'm editing the podcast, I'm like, I have to cut it out every time. And I noticed it when I was doing stand-up.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's always I touch my hat. Mine's physical.
Yeah.
Ticks.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Uh-huh.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You need one of those hats that has hands on it, and you go like this, and they clap.
There you go. Yeah. This is for you guys. Start doing this.
Yeah.
So the character Gordy LaChance, Sean Astin and Ethan Hawke were both considered for that role.
Yeah, I don't.
Before Will Wheaton.
Sean Astin would have been interesting.
Yeah.
It's Gordy.
So we've talked about this before, where casting decisions, sometimes we think that wouldn't have worked. It was only for this character.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're like, oh, I actually think that would have been an okay choice also.
Yeah.
For Nathan Jessup, for A Few Good Men, Jack Nicholson was the only person who could have played that character.
Yeah.
Sean Astin, I think, would have been an awesome Gordy.
Yeah.
I think he would have done such a good job.
Okay.
Yeah. I think.
As Frodo Baggins?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's Sam.
He wasn't Frodo Baggins.
He's Sam.
Who was it? Oh, he was Sam. That's right.
Yeah.
He was a hobbit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All hobbits look the same.
I forget he's a child actor too.
Yeah, in Goonies.
Yep. That's another one I need to rewatch. I literally don't remember anything about that movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's been a while.
I went to the Goonies Museum last year.
Where's that?
Astoria,
Really?
Oregon, yeah.
Okay.
It's a real thing.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
I went and hung myself in the Fratelli's prison cell.
Nice.
Yeah. They saved me at the last minute.
That's
you
good.
recovered.
Yeah. And then I jumped in a Jeep and got out of there. The Jeep is actually out front with the bullet holes in it and everything.
Really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
It's so cool. Yeah. What other casting decisions?
Those were the only ones that I saw for that, but I did see James Cameron. You guys know who James Cameron is?
Mhm.
Yeah.
He disliked the film very much
Really?
because of the portrayal of children holding guns.
Oh, okay.
He
That
didn't
seems
like- he didn't like
political.
that.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. James Cameron has some weird ideals.
Mm.
I don't know if I agree with him on everything. But you know.
I don't agree on that specific thing either. I think the gun was a good thing to have in the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I say give them all guns.
Yeah.
What else? We got anything else? Are we feeling good about this?
Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah, I feel good. Yeah.
We probably, none of this got recorded. We ran out of
Yeah,
memory
yeah.
like
At
a
the
long
start.
time ago.
Yeah.
We've been talking for no reason.
Well, certainly a good conversation nonetheless.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, man. I'm really glad I got to even rewatch these too. Also, this was fun.
Yeah.
And it was good catching up with you.
Yeah, you too.
You want to come back on again sometime?
Dude, yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
Give me an excuse to watch some more movies.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, what we should do is you should figure out like maybe who your favorite director is or
Okay.
some favorite movies that you really, really like.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about those.
Okay. That'll
Yeah.
be tough. I'm bad with movies because I literally like everything. Like it's pretty hard to not like something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll do
I'm kind of the same way.
yeah.
You know, I just want to be entertained.
That's how I am too.
And if the movie's entertaining to me,
Yeah.
I don't need it to be this certain thing.
Yeah, that's how a
Right.
lot of people. This movie's bad. I'm like, it is what it is. Like
Right.
because it's like I don't like the Fast and Furious movies. I'm like, they're fun. They are what they are. Like it's just
Right.
it's not this But yeah, I don't know.
Am I going to go see the Fast and the Furious in theaters for the 50th anniversary with
Are you?
one guy sitting in front of me? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably gonna be talking. So
Or coughing.
yeah, that's right.
Well, how many are there now? Like
I
25?
think there's 9
Fast
or 10.
and the Furious?
Yeah, basically, there's so many. I haven't seen the last few, but yeah, there was a period where I literally would just go to every single movie that was out, just because I'm like,
You got to wonder after a while, what can you do with this? And now
yeah,
we've pretty much done everything.
they could take their cars and like pick up the planet. They haven't gone that far yet and fly to another,
They're almost to the point where Vin Diesel's going to start racing in like a motorized wheelchair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what my grandpa always says he wants when he gets older.
Yeah.
Yeah, put a motor on my.
There you go.
Like, I'll do some
Absolutely.
wheelies and stuff.
Cool.
Nice. Should we do our ending?
Yeah, let's do it. All
This
right.
is our brand new ending.
Yeah, we're
Heck
going to
yeah.
read this off
Yeah.
here.
I'm going to do the dad part.
All right, you do the dead part. All right.
You do the other part.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks for listening to My Dad's Movie Podcast. We had a lot of fun creating it, and we hope you enjoyed it.
For more content, please check us out at Facebook and YouTube at My Dad's Movie Podcast or visit our website, mydadsmoviepodcast.com.
And always, if you'd like to help support us, please check out our Patreon at My Dad's Movie Podcast.
Thanks for listening, everybody. All right. Cool. Well, thank you, Derek. And we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right.
Push the button.
Push the button.
And we're gone.
Nice, that was fun.